working when it comes to language learning and student success. Then we also have student success. Are students learning by using technology, and are they able to show success in learning? Teacher success, language learning with technology is for teachers interested in integrating technology in their classroom practice. What we know is that we have early adopters who really, really want to do things, and then we have the laggards who are at the end, who are taking their time to adopt technology into their classroom. Then we have costs. Some of our presenters spoke earlier, student access, school access to devices, and the technological divide. So you might want to use technology, and that's fine and great. You might do a flipped classroom, but if your student goes home and they don't have access to technology, you've just created a division in your classroom, and that's not equitable to learning. And then student dependence. Do students become dependent on the technology, or are they using it only for a specific reason? So what we don't want to do is always use technology in the classroom and make technology our go-to. Okay, little Hamoud over here, he's not doing the right thing, go get an iPad and put him on the iPad for an hour just to keep him quiet. That's what we don't want to do when we use technology in a classroom. So the solutions are to close the gap, so ensure that all students have access to technology and connectivity. So if you are using technology, say in your lesson, in your classroom, you want to make sure that you know the ability of all the children in that classroom, all the students, to access that technology in a safe way and in a non-shaming way. So you might want to ask everybody individually, how do you use technology at home, so that you know if they have access to it or not. So that if you're doing those digital trends in your classroom, if somebody doesn't have it, if little Hessa over here, she doesn't have technology at home, she's completely now excluded from that lesson. So if you are going to use those tools, you're doing it directly in the classroom and there is no takeaway. Teacher success, to ensure educators understand the technology they're using and how to use it effectively. I can give you a really funny story. When I was teaching in Canada, I was doing a read aloud with a school in Michigan in the United States. And the teacher, I didn't know, we didn't pre-rehearse this, but the teacher didn't really have control of the classroom. So I turned on the Skype, and the classroom was completely upside down, and they were screaming and yelling, and it was a total mess. And my students were sitting there staring at this and basically watching this chaos. So I learned a really good lesson that day, is always know what you're going to do when you're going to use technology beforehand in your classroom. And there's just a few simple reasons why. And the main one is that you as an educator can find yourself in trouble if you don't know what you're doing beforehand. You don't know what students' thresholds are and what parents' thresholds are. For one parent, something might be okay, but for another parent, something might not be okay. So you always want to kind of rehearse that beforehand. And then student dependence. Students' use will be based in need on the lesson. As an instructional coach and doing intervention now, this is like now basically my third school. At one time, I had a portfolio of 21 schools. And in Kuwait, this would be my third school. And what I've noticed is that technology has become the go-to. It's become the treat. It's become the punishment. It's become recess. It's become, you're a good boy, you're a bad girl, go to the iPad, go to your phone, go to technology. I can't handle you right now. And I've noticed this as a really a growing trend. You know, we used to take away recess. Some of you who have been teaching as much as I'm not going to say as long as but as much as you know that we used to say, okay, today, little Nancy, you're going to give me 15 minutes at recess. Now we say, little Nancy, I'm going to take away your iPad time. And you know that that works. So you want to make sure that the students are not dependent on technology. There's a specific purpose for it in your room, and that's exactly what you're using it for. After that, it's iPads down. Close your phone, close your device, and you're going back to a more of like an in-person holistic style. And then student success. So students will have measured use of technology. Why are they using it, and what are they using it for? okay, you're using RazKids, this is why we're using it, and I need to see at the end that you've done something so that it's not a useless waste of time for them and for you. Because your administrator is going to want to see results from what you're doing in your classroom. It doesn't matter if you're using Play-Doh or a MacBook, there needs to be a result for student learning. Am I talking too fast? Oh, okay, because I wanted to respect your time. That's also another really Canadian thing. If you're 5 minutes early, you're late. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. That's a motto that we have in Canada. So what I need you to do right now is I need you to take out your phone, and I'm going to show you something that I use a lot with my students. It's called Padlet. So if you can go ahead and scan this QR code, and those of you who teach at the secondary and at the post-secondary level, this could be something you could use in your classroom because you probably have an auditorium like this, and you want to get student engagement as opposed to, you know, just being a sage on the stage. We know that students do not learn like that anymore. So if you can go ahead and download this, and then I'll open the other screen for you. And then if you can go ahead and answer the question that's there, please. And I'll just go ahead and open that. Oh, very good. You've all figured it out already. Awesome. If you know what Padlet is, can you go ahead and clap twice? Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, so Padlet is a technological tool. So as I told you throughout my presentation, I will give you little nuggets and different tools that I use and that I've seen a lot of educators use. So Padlet is a really cool one where you can measure student success. You could give a math problem, you could give a poem, as one of our participants said earlier, really any sort of question, and then the students can go ahead and answer them in real time in the classroom. You could have a little checkboard, so you're using a digital technology in your classroom. I'm of course going to relate it to language because that's what I do, but you might teach physics, so you could relate it to that. And then right in real time, you can go ahead and see what they're doing, and then have your own basically formative way of assessing the students. And so, as you see, I'll just wait till some more of our participants maybe can add something on here, and hopefully the ones online as well. And so this is something really interesting and neat to use. It doesn't take a lot of time. I know one of our participants asked earlier about setting up the lessons and preparing lessons. I know that can be really tedious, but this is super simple to add as sort of an add-on to your lesson, or you can put it right in your lesson and put the question at the top and teach right from it as, say, an opener or an exit ticket to your lesson, and you're still engaging the students with whatever it is that you're doing. As well as I mentioned, you're doing it in the classroom. So if there is a technological divide, they could possibly share a device, say between 2 or 3 students, and type their answer. Okay, so we have friends who said it's a double-edged sword. It can be effective or distractive. I completely agree with you. Oh, this is so cool. Yes, hello everybody, definitely. It's a valuable asset. Whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay, and what we've seen during COVID is that it can be used for education. I know definitely when I was in Canada, this was a really big sore spot for educators, was this shift to technology, and you know, how is it going to affect our work? But now we know it's here to stay, and so we have to adopt it into our lesson because it is becoming one of the most effective ways to engage students, keep them engaged, as well as we'll show throughout the presentation, it is also a forum for them to study and to practice and to rewind and listen to and rehear the lesson. And there are different apps that you can do that with. So I'll just go back here now. So as you see, you've gotten to see Padlet, and I hope you use it in what you're doing in your classrooms. All right, so as I said, Padlet, it's really easy to set up. You can make a QR code. You could make like 4 or 5 different Padlets, put them up around your classroom, the QR codes, and the students go around, scan and answer questions. You have your data. Do you have any questions as of right now? Questions, comments? Okay, I'll keep going. So basically what are digital literacies, and you'll see the citation at the bottom of the page. Advances in digital communication technologies have led to important changes in the way that people read, write, and communicate. And we see this everywhere. We even see a way that language is morphing and changing, like how are you, HRU, or LOL. So we're seeing language transform. So why not adopt it into what you're doing? New forms of representation in the digital context are increasingly hypertextual, multimodal, interactive, and plurilingual. As a result of such developments, many scholars in language and literacy education have called for practitioners to rethink the curriculum and take such digital literacies into account. Are there any educators in the room who already have a digital literacy curriculum that they're working with in their language class? Is there anyone here? Yes. What is it that you guys are doing? Yes, I know what you're talking about. Amazing. So as we said, many schools are incorporating it as early as kindergarten. To rethink the curriculum and take such digital literacies into account. In this chapter, which will continue, but what is most important is that English language teaching, which I'm assuming that most or some of us do in this room, attempts to address new needs of English language learners in the digital age, new learning contexts in the form of globalized online spaces, and where ELLs can interact with other English language speakers. As I said, I had a classroom many years ago, and we were interacting with other ELL students in the United States. Even though the lesson didn't go as planned, however, it was a very new and effective way to listen and see each other and talk to each other as ELLs, listen to different accents, and then go ahead and share our competencies with one another. And that was back when Skype wasn't swallowed by Zoom. All right. I'm just going to go down here. All right, I have a small video for you now. If I could just get your eyes over here. Okay, so just a few takeaways from that, that I think that we see as the most reoccurring theme is the digital divide. So despite it being progress, despite there being new apps every day, new programs every day, technology connectivity can be very expensive. So that's one thing that I want to continue to emphasize is that whatever you're doing in your classroom, just make sure that everyone, as we saw earlier in with one of the other presenters, is that everyone is an equitable stakeholder in that lesson, and that everyone has the ability to be connected, get connected, and do what it is that you're doing. And let's say hypothetically you may be doing a flipped classroom. If you don't know what that is, that's when you pre-record your lesson, you put it as homework, the students watch it as homework, then they come the next day and do it. If that is what you are doing, as an example, try and maybe show the video in the classroom so that it's still in their mind, even if they can't per se see it or watch it at home. So language learning model using digital. I'm sorry, everyone, I'm getting over a small cold. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Okay. I tried to mute that, but it wouldn't mute it. But I did like what it wanted to offer for why digital technologies are useful. Okay, okay, thank you. I'll take that into consideration. Thank you. So language learning model using digital. So of course we know that we have tons of research on digital literacy instruction and how it engages students' cognitive abilities. The thinking, asking them to apply critical thinking skills to their actions when they are using technology. We know that we don't want them just going on there doing whatever, researching whatever. And you as the educator, you want to make sure that you have those blocks on there so that students aren't able to access information that is inappropriate as well. And then student engagement. It's a positive social engagement on digital platforms. So of course, as we know, there's big emphasis on bullying. That is the one thing that you don't want to see on your digital tools, such as when I created the Padlet, I made sure that I put on the filters on there so that if there is any words or any information that comes on that is inappropriate, it's immediately filtered off. Because as educators, and certainly in my role working with both administration and teachers, the one thing you don't want to do is find yourself caught in a meeting over something that could have been avoided. All right. Here we go. So some examples of student success using technology.
It's 12:06. I'm going to check in with you at 12:30. You're going to independently work on your CDA while my time check them through. You do so quietly, please.
So I've done this particular CDA for my 6th year in 2 different districts. This first year I did not have a one-to-one situation. So we did this essay. I wanted to give them an alternate way to show what they know.
If you have slides 1 through 3 done, please raise your hand.
So this year I'm teaching a shelter ELL class. I have 10 6th graders in that class and the rest are 7th grade. iPads provide equitable access to content and material because they allow students to articulate what they know and understand through a variety of different capacities, whether it be iMovie, Google Slides, Keynote. We did an infographic earlier in the year. It's just a different way to illustrate their understanding beyond writing essays or the other things we typically do in the next course. So if you can find one more and it's more than under background. It's a very busy classroom, but I'm okay with that because we need to practice the language, not just written, verbally, and practice talking with others, and formal and informal language. So the iPads allow them to use that technology to express themselves at their level. And it also allows them again to use images and illustrate ideas in ways other than the written language, which is very important, especially for second language learners.
Thank
you want to get some pictures? Yeah, the pictures, that was really, that really helped us achieve our own focus of media education where they're at and helping them reach their success. And you just include that information. Okay, so when you're done, I'll take over. What I love most is how everything working in the building, what I'm doing in the classroom, and what the district's focusing on, it's all starting to align. And I believe that we're moving in a great direction. I'm excited to see where we're going.
Okay, so what we noticed is that it was a little bit easier for her to get the students, especially the students who were perhaps introverts, to do things that they may not otherwise do when we had a fully extroverted classroom, such as stand up, give a presentation. We know that for a lot of people, and not only children, that's something that really can bring on a lot of anxiety for them. So as she mentioned in the video, using technology can sort of shift that barrier so that those students who are introverts or who are shy about certain things, they can do them on the technology and show you personally, as well as you can get a lot more one-to-one time with a student if you are sometimes using technology, such as you could give the classroom, and I'll speak from a primary context, you could give the classroom 25 minutes or 20 minutes of reading time. Say, everyone pull out your device, please go on RazKids and start working on your RazKids or your IXL. And during that time, you can pull small groups to either do, say, one-to-one or small group literacy-based instruction with your students, let's say, who you want to bump up a level. So there is technology that you can use also to give students who need extra help that extra time by having the other students do something that is focused and educationally based. Okay, so this is another app that I like to use with my students. You can either go to slido.com and put in the code, or you can get to it through the QR code. So you can either go to slido.com and then put in the code there, or you can go to the QR code. And I'm going to show you something that I thought was really cool, and I thought this would be awesome, definitely for primary students.
Well, I'm trying to record the stuff because I mean it's a Zoom.
So there's a question at the top. What are you using to integrate digital technology into your learning or your classroom? And then here what happens is this kind of becomes a Wordle, it's a virtual Wordle. And this I found you could again use with any subject. You could also use with your phonics lesson, which is a really big push we have here in Kuwait, is phonics at the primary level. And you can have the students answer a question. You could put up here what are nouns, and the students could write all kinds of different nouns. I don't know, say something for physics, what is pi or whatever. I don't know, I'm not really into the sciences, I apologize. But so with this, and then with Slido, which is another app you can use in your classroom, and I only like to use apps where I can get a formative assessment from my students. I don't want to use things that are useless and just a time waste. All of those minutes need to be effective when you're there with the students. And so here, as you see, people are telling me what they're using, and I think I'm going to use some of those. Amazing. So this could be very interactive at the post-secondary level, at the secondary level, and then at the primary level. You could use it for any type of lesson that you have. As I said, you could put at the top there as your question, what is a noun? And all the students could put what is a noun, or you could ask them in the law, in a law class, say in a university law class, I don't know, any type of question that was the legal system of Egypt, I don't know. And then they could go ahead and put their questions in. And with Slido, there's actually many different formats that you can use, such as online quizzing and so forth.
Texted her and said,
so this is another type of app, and as you see, it's pretty interactive, it's moving. So, you know, the students like that. They sort of like shiny things, as we say,
we need to
get them engaged and keep them engaged.
That you need to do for the website.
Okay, so I'll just transfer over from here. And this is super easy to make. You have all different templates and so forth, and teachers, it's free, which we like, of course. So I'll go back, and as you see here, you see it moving around, and it's really interactive, and it's an excellent digital tool to use in your classroom. Okay, so I'll continue. I'll continue going on, and if you want to keep answering, that's up to you. So educator success, what are some of the do's? Classroom culture, ideally, you want to create a classroom culture where it's a supportive use of technology. Practice your lessons using the technology in your classroom. I've already shared with you a major fail, and I'm sure you all have your own. But make sure you practice that, because the last place you want to find yourself is having a very difficult conversation about something that should not have happened. And then communicate your objectives to the students. As we said earlier, and I think this is for all of us in education, we're in a generation where, and in a time where students have access to a lot of information all the time. So it's important for us to communicate to them, because they're the stakeholder, why we are doing what we're doing with them and how this can benefit them. Of course, at my level, primary, K through 8, there's not really very many challenges. But I imagine for many of you at secondary and post-secondary level, there are students coming in there with a wealth and breadth of knowledge that may be ready to challenge you at any time throughout your lesson. So we always want to communicate those objectives. And then keep flexibility and patience in mind. And as I showed you with 2 different apps, spice it up a little bit, make it interesting for the students, not just the usual PowerPoint and so forth, and get them engaged. Of course, the little guy, all I have to do is put on some music. I mean, in grade 1, you tell them, get up, let's dance, you put on some music, they love it, they're up and dancing. For those of us who are a bit more mature, we like to relax. So apps like Slido and Padlet are very easy to get your students engaged at the secondary and post-secondary level. And then different growth strategies that you can have with technology is personalized instruction. I think this is something that we are all doing more and more, with a lot of students who have a lot of different neurodivergencies. We know that there's a lot of students who need that one-to-one instruction. I see it more and more post-COVID in my work, and technology gives us the ability to do that. That the learning is flexible for students with the use of technology. As I said, if they have that technology at home and they didn't finish something in class, they can go home and access
the only reason I did
it
was
a guardian, a tutor, and they can work on it at home and come the next day and be responsible to share with you that they've done that. Something that we do a lot of in my role is work with educators to allow students the flexibility to finish their work at their pace based on what their pace is. We're not all the same, students are not all the same, so technology allows us that room and flexibility. There was a time when 4 o'clock on a Tuesday was 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. Now in education, 4 o'clock on a Tuesday can be a Wednesday, can be a Thursday, can be a doctor's note, can be a sick leave, can be a Monday, can be a Sunday. So as educators, we have to learn that at least with technology, we can give them things that they can do at home, and then bring it to, we have the responsibility to bring it to us, when they've completed it, and then, we can do our assessments and so forth. I might come from a different school of thought than many of you. In a Western context, there is that flexibility in learning that students have extra time to do their work. But what I have noticed, especially here in Kuwait, is that we have also adopted this as well. We are giving students more flexibility and time, because nobody knows at home. You can't assume that at home.
I know. And
everything is perfect. We don't know what kids go home to and what they come to us with, even at the university level.
And is Veronica still there?
24 hours a day
Is
to review and recap. So
okay,
that's
maybe
another
she
excellent
lived.
part of technology. I apologize, as I said, I'm just getting over a bad cold.
Well, and it was interesting for the
I know that there's a
opening,
lot of.
because you know,
secondary,
usually
post-secondary
you just
educators
welcome
that are now building
everyone,
their entire
you
lessons
thank
on
everyone,
YouTube,
and that's
we
it.
have to watch
Their
them, and it's
their
model,
dean,
have them
he's
watch
very
home,
nice, but he
you know,
gave
do
a
whatever
whole
you need
speech
to do
on
whatever the
how to
lesson is,
teach.
and then come in the next day,
So,
and then they have.
you know, and it was very good. I
methods
wish,
of
I
learning.
hope that they've
So
got
that's
it. It
an
would make a
excellent way
very
for
nice
students
thing
to watch and
to
rewatch their
have to
lessons.
put on for the
They have an
recording.
exam on the weekend,
But,
you know, they
I
can
don't
watch
know,
all
it's just,
prior to that exam.
it's not as
That's another
horrible as
nugget
I
of
thought it might be,
technology
considering.
to give students success. The number one key is student success. It's not my salary, it's not my big
remember-
position, it's not my title. It's getting students to the finish
And remember,
line.
I said
Technology
that
can
I
help
would
us do that
create
through different modes
the
of
links
media.
if she wanted. And I kept trying to tell her,
And then here are
don't
some
have
other,
people
apps
register for
that
this
I've been
with
known
this,
to
you know,
use.
with this
Some
through
of them,
Zoom.
you know, you might even
She
use.
insisted that it
is
did.
another one.
So what did we
Who's
have
to
when she gave the
memorize
schedule the
Google
night
lingo.
before,
So
no,
these are
2
all
days
different apps
before?
that you can use
She had
in your classroom
completely
with your
different
students.
links.
And
So I
again,
had
you
to
know,
bring
you wanna
my
be the one
laptop.
monitoring all
Fatma
of
sat
this,
there,
setting
she
everything
logged
up,
into the Zoom account
with your
so that
students.
she could tell
And as I
people,
said, there's,
no, go
other
to the
ones that
TESOL
you're
Kuwait
educational
and click on the
institutions might
links
have, like
there.
Excel,
I mean,
Brad
it was
did,
embarrassing,
you
but
know,
I didn't know what else to
reading,
do.
and then secondary and post-secondary, whatever you guys have. But again, just monitoring that and making sure that there's equity in the technology and equity in using technology for language learning. So that is it for me. And do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? I'm on time, just 7 minutes late. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if you do, you can always contact me later on my socials. You can send me a message if you have any questions or email me. I'm happy to take them. Thank you very much.